Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Miftahul Jannah with student ID 230181167. In this presentation, I will explain one of the subtopics from Introduction to Sociolinguistics, namely ethnographic approaches in sociolinguistics, which focus on the ethnography of communication, speaking, and ethnography and beyond. Ethnography approaches in sociolinguistics. Ethnography is an approach to researching the roles, cultural norms, and values that are intertwined with language use. Asa Johnson, 2004, also said that ethnography is the best explanation of human behavior that are particular and culturally relative rather than general and universal. Meanwhile, the ethnography research is carried out through participant observation or first-hand observation of behavior in a group of people in their natural setting. Ethnographers try to provide accounts which show how the behavior that is being observed makes sense within the community that is being observed. So, in order to capture the first-hand language pattern and attitude, the ethnographer or people who conduct ethnographic research, they need to live for an extensive period of time in community they are studying, and they also try to provide account which show how the behavior that is being observed makes sense within the community that is being observed. Here, the ethnographic research is more qualitative rather than quantitative. There are three illustrative book length of ethnographic studies. The first one is Serzen, 1983. The second one is from Hill and Hill, 1983. And the third one is from Mendoza Denton, 2008. However, it is important to remember that these studies represent the result of lengthy and time-consuming ethnographic project. It is also possible to do smaller scale studies using participant observation, like focusing on very specific types of interaction in a group and particular linguistic feature. So now we are coming the ethnographic of communication. The goal of ethnography of communication to study the communicative competence of a specific community by discovering and analyzing patterns of communication that organize the use of language in particular communicative activities. So, what is communicative competence? Communicative competence is sometimes used to describe the knowledge of how to use language in culturally appropriate ways. So, linguistic competence average the speaker's ability not only to produce grammatically correct sentence, but also communicative competence, which is appropriately reflects social norm, governing a behavior and specific encounter. In 1996, the field trip said that communicative competence extends to both knowledge and expectation of the first who might or might not speak in certain setting, and then when to speak and when to remain silent. And the third, particular social meeting. In short, everything involves the use of language and other communicative dimension in particular social setting. Things need to be considered in learning a language and how to speak. The first one there is from Himes, 1972, say that children not only must learn how to construct sentence in that language, but also must acquire knowledge of a set of ways in which sentences are used. For example, like developing general theory of the appropriate speaking in their community so that the student can be able to recognize such as appropriate and inappropriate interrogative behavior and so on. The second one is learning to speak. We are also learn how to communicate in appropriate ways to the group in which we are doing that learning. It is also taught sometimes because language socialization. For example, there is a famous study which focused on communicative competence is found in Frick 1964. It is outline kind of speech used in drinking encounter among the Superna of the Philippines. The conclusion, communicative competence is a key component of social competence. This is also clearly not enough to merely be adept at the grammar of the language, but we also have to understand the social appropriateness of different construction. Okay, now the next part is about speaking. Himes has proposed an ethnographic framework which take into account the various factors that are involved in speaking. The word speaking here is actually as an acronym for the various factors that Himes seem to be relevant in understanding how particular communicative event achieve its objective. Okay. So here are the 8 factors from speaking of her name. The first one, the letter S stand off for setting and scene. The second one, the letter P, it stand of participant, and the letter A stand for ends. The letter A stand for egg and sequence, and the letter key stand for key. The letter I stand for instrumentalities. The letter N stand for norm of interaction and interpretation. And the last one is the letter G stand for genre. So the first factor is setting, and scene setting refers to time and place, while scenes refers to the abstract psychological setting or the culture definition, often association. The second factor is participant. It refers to the speaker, listener, or address or sender, receive, and the third factor is ends. It refers to the conventionally recognized and expected outcomes of an exchange as well to the personal goal that participants seek to accomplish on particular occasion. The fourth factor is sequence. It refers to the actual form and content of what is said. For example, like the precise word used, how they are used, and the relationship of what it to the actual topic at hand. And then the fifth factor is key. It refers to the tone, manner, word, period in which a particular message is complete. It is also in form of like hurt, series, pedantic, mocking, sarcastic, and so on. The next factor is instrumental. It refers to the choice of channel, for example, like oral, written, psych, or tele telepathic and to the actual form of speech employed such as language, dialect, code register that is chosen. The next factor is norm of interaction and interpretation. It refers to the specific behavior and properties that attach to speaking and also how to might be feel by someone who does not share them. And for the last factor is genre. Genre refers to clearly to market type of utterance such as poem, proverb, riddle, prayer, lecture, and editorial. So, based on this eight factor, Haim overuse in his speaking formula is a very necessarily remind that style is a complex activity and that any particular bit of style is actually a pitch of skill breed. Okay, the next section is ethnography and beyond. In more recent study, the description of underlying communicative competence and actual language use are combined with critical perceptive and other form of discovery analysis. For example, Duff 2002 looked at classroom interaction in a multi-ethnic Canadian high school classroom through ethnography of communication research while also adopting critical and post-structuralist theoretical stand in her analysis. So from the analysis, which also include information about student achievement and attitudes, then in interview with the researchers, provide a picture of the classroom interaction, which is much broad and more nuanced than a description of what occurred in the interaction. For example, some ESL English as a second language student, many of whom had Chinese parents or uh, were themselves not born in Canada participate least in classroom discourse but were nevertheless high achieved and in many cases perform better academically than their classmates who were born in Canada and had English as their first language. So the next is conclusion. In conclusion, ethnographic approaches in sociolinguistics focus on understanding language used within its social and cultural context through direct observation. This approach highlights communicative competence, showing that speaking involves knowing not only the language but also the social roles of its use. By using the ethnography of communication and hymn speaking framework, researchers can better explain how communication function in real situation. This topic emphasizes that language cannot be separate from culture and social interaction. Ethnographic studies require long-term engagement with a community to capture authentic communication pattern. Thereof, this approach is useful for understanding real-life language use, especially in educational and social setting, because it provides a more complete and contextual view of communication. Okay, that's why my explanation of ethnographic approaches in sociolinguistics. I believe the explanation is sufficient. Okay, I'm Intan and I will now take my leave. Okay, thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.